Dress up just for you guys.
You got the Tampa pastels on.
Yeah, I'm speaking at a MSP event here in Tampa.
Oh, you
So
need
we
one
will.
of the Panama hat.
Meanwhile, Jim's got Popeye boxers on, walking around with a jacket and,
I need to
shirt.
prove you wrong. No.
But he's got the flip flops. Let's make sure
Yeah.
we're good on that.
Shoes. I got shoes. Yeah, I actually have to leave a little early today because of that. So about
All right,
1:25.
we'll kick things off. We got an awesome guest today. Jim, I've got you up first here. If you want to kick things off and see if we got any wins of the week, we'll go to Michelle. We've got Leron with a quick update, and then we'll get it right on into our special guest and get into Copilot, because Chip kind of postured some really good questions, and I thought the folks from Antiva and Ted would do that justice. So with that, Jim, let me let you kick things off. Do we have any cool wins on your side that you saw this week before we turn it over to partners?
The common theme has been, we obviously do a lot of prospect calls every week, and we received a inbound lead from a MSP that uses a very popular SOC as a service. I'm not going to mention which one. And they said that they're having a specific issue with token hijacking, and that 3 of their customers just this past week alone have been victims of token hijacking.
Wow.
And so we went through the whole thing, and they're like, this is exactly what we need. So that's kind of a win on the prospect side, because people, I think, are recognizing that they need a solution like this, because those token hijacking, as Andy mentioned, they bypass conditional access and MFA. So that was basically some really cool things coming from at least one prospect that I spoke to, but certainly would like to. Let's see. Okay, let's jump right there then, because that is something that we've been talking a lot about internally this week.
There's an issue with ConnectWise control?
Yeah.
What I don't know if you heard, Andrew, but
we did a cyber call on it yesterday. No, I'm just kidding.
I know. But yeah, I first heard of it, I guess it was Tuesday evening, that there was a significant issue. So I jumped on with Chip and with Leron and Adam Steinoff, who leads your MSP tools team, immediately, and said, let's see what we can do.
Right.
Can we, in fact, monitor ConnectWise Cloud Control? And we've done a lot of work on it. I think Adam worked pretty much overnight on it that night and came back, and here's the good news. There's a lot we can do. We've reached out to ConnectWise, and I specifically was texting with Jason McGee yesterday and today. He said, look, the team's got a lot going on, obviously. I said, we feel that with a little bit of cooperation at this point from your tech team at ConnectWise, we can provide a continuous monitoring solution for ConnectWise control on a go-forward basis, which he seemed to be in favor of. But if you are, in fact, a partner of ConnectWise and you're using control, and this is something that you would like to see, I would encourage you to let them know that this is something that you would like to see, to encourage them to work with us on it. Because we're kind of at a stopping point until they collaborate with us. So I would love to get thoughts on that from people.
Yes, thank you.
Can you expand on that, Eric?
Yeah.
So Pat, I talked to Patrick Beggs after the call, Jim. He's coming to write a boom now.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe we set up a call for you. And what would be kind of cool is especially with Chip there and Bo, maybe we kind of get him, hooked in with what you guys are doing in chat, right? Post that event.
Yeah, so first of all, we would love that. We would love to talk to Patrick. I think he would be really interested in what we're able to do, and we can share with him what we've found. So, look, I think there's a lot of people out there dissecting what happened, right?
Yeah.
Which is useful. There's no doubt about that. What we want to do is prevent it from happening again, or at least mitigate the risk from happening again to at least our partners, right? Like we have a responsibility to you. And if we can do that, we want to be able to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in this case, Eric, I think you were on, right, yesterday. I mean, I think and again, ConnectWise, I think has been pretty transparent. In this case, I think people are looking for more than, and Chip, I'll kind of air to you here. They're looking for more than what it is. It's just a blatant, very easy exploitation. I mean, there's no bones about it. Just, that's what it is here.
Right.
Yeah, it might not be related, but it'd still be good to get our eyes on who's trying to log into our Screen Connect.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more, Eric. Yeah, so
Yeah, I mean, our goal, Eric, would be to do what we do in general, which is just begin to observe all the activity, and then, infer from changes in activity where there's a potential problem. Look for anomalous events and account behavior. We won't go into too much detail about it, but there are definitely some modifications that would need to get made to the way things are logged in order for us to do that successfully. And I think based upon Jim's, the strength of Jim's relationships in the MSP universe and among different vendors, I feel hopeful that we're going to get that kind of cooperation.
yeah. And by the way, Chad, you bring up a good point. I'm just responding to you here. The one thing I did tell them, and again, I think lesson learned is like, using your sales team because they're quote unquote available relative to everybody else in your company can make outbound calls. When you got thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people, and we know how much goes into spam from emails, like, why wouldn't you spend a bunch of money and hire a temp agency to make calls? Like, you got to do something different here. So I did mention that, Chad. I agree with you there.
Yeah. Andrew, what do you think? Because Eric asked a good question. Like, who should we have people email over at ConnectWise? I mean, do you think it should be Patrick? Jason, I have a relationship with him, and we've always had a really good working relationship.
Yeah.
He's got a lot going on right now. I don't know if he's the best person at this point to send this through because he's just going to send it to somebody else, or should it be Patrick, or who do you think can actually get the feedback and run with it?
Yeah. I mean, I think my here's my gut. I think right now, this minute, any company in their situation, you're going to kind of get stonewalled. And I say that not negatively. They're like, we've got to focus on task at hand here.
Right.
Job number one. In terms of, whose voice I think you'd have probably the best, it would probably be certainly Patrick would be up there. Still Jeff Bishop, who owns product now, and I can help facilitate any of those and all of those. But I'm on calls with Patrick all the time now, trying to help get the word out.
So if you have his email address, and you wouldn't mind putting it in the chat so people could actually email him and share their support towards this notion, understanding it will probably take a little time, right? Because there's things that they have to shore up now. But as long as they're hearing from this community that this is something they want, I'm sure it'll get done a lot faster. This is how we were able to get Enable, for instance, right? To make changes to the API so we can monitor them.
Right. All right. Okay. I'm just reading here, Jim, sorry.
Yeah.
Mail munch. Yeah. Okay. I agree, Chad.
And then on-prem versus cloud. Chip, we're pretty confident, right, that we can do both on-prem and cloud in this situation, right?
Provided that they're pulling the on-prem data back up into the cloud to monitor. Correct.
Yeah, and
Similar like what we do today for like automate, like we
Exactly.
monitor automate both cloud and on-prem.
Correct.
Yeah. Probably the biggest issue they're dealing with right now is and they've taken a stance and actually unlicensed all of these for the protection of the end user is unsupported instances. So
Right.
the problem is people that have perpetual licenses and dropped assurance or support or whatever you call it, Jim, and they're not just one rev behind, but
Several.
10 revs behind.
Right.
That's a big issue.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
and those are the ones that a lot of people are seeing from Shodan, etc. So
What is this going to cost the MSP, Andrew, when it determined that not only did they have a license but they didn't maintain themselves as they purport to maintain their clients?
yeah, no, that's an excellent question, Andy. I don't know the answer to that, but if there was a compromise, that MSP's in big doo-doo using an unsupported product. If it's traced all the way back from forensics that blah, blah, blah.
How is this a message that could be conveyed to customers and prospective customers as a way to validate itself? This is another way SaaS alerts could help say, you know what? Here's a certification. Boom. We're monitoring all their tools and they're current.
Certification idea.
So you want a SaaS alerts badge, Andy?
Like a
I'm
validation
just
almost.
trying to give you more ways to
It's
make
funny.
SaaS alerts the
Jim
source
and I are
of.
both reacting, Andy, because well, go ahead, Jim.
We had this conversation courtesy of Mr. Morgan on Friday with a very reputable, well-known cybersecurity training company. And we're going to be working with them hopefully on a certification program, exactly like you just described.
And I'm also saying that this is a stamp for the MSP to show their customers, much
Yeah.
like,
Right.
Great. On the same page. Thank you.
Yep.
And
that's why we're not doing it ourselves, by the way. That's why we want to work with a third party on it.
The one thing and I think this is what Stephen is alluding to, a phone system vendor, that I hope you're all doing some type of inventory on your customer. Like, I remember Ryan Weeks doing this back in the day with SolarWinds and Kaseya when there was the incident. So it's what third parties, and I think this, Stephen, are you referring to this, where there's a third party that's also providing service to your customer, hypothetically, that's using control? Is that what you're referring to there, Stephen, potentially? If Stephen King has a mic.
Sorry, I was stuck on mute. Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
This was another Screen Connect agent that we detected. And so, this phone system vendor has access to update phone, support the phone system. And so they were way behind, and so, removed the agent just as a security measure, but just policing the environment there for other Screen Connect systems.
Did you do kind of like a discovery, a script of some type, Stephen, or did you just like look at all your RMM agents based on inventory? What did you, how did you do it?
I use a Automate, and I have there's a monitor, an internal monitor that we have that looks at the services, and we can kind of tell the server host name out of it, and get some information that way.
Yeah, very cool. Anyway, so that's just a word to the wise there that you might say, I'm not running it, but don't be so assured, especially in your larger clients that might have third parties, that they're not running it. And then Stephen, great. Really appreciate you pointing that out. Oh, my VoIP vendor is using it. Yeah, they may be. Okay, Jim, let's move on to Michelle.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. So I just have 3 quick reminders. Nothing new and earth shattering. One is that next Tuesday will be in office hours week. So make sure that's in your calendar. I'm going to drop the link just so you have it. And Ben will be on vacation, so it will just be Anthony. And maybe some of us will jump on too, but it should be good as always. And then some of you may have already attended this. I was off, so I only started to watch the recording, but it looks really good. The MRR guarantee webinar. We have 2 more sessions. I believe it's the 28th and 29th. So the 28th at 1 p.m. Eastern and the 29th at 10 a.m. Eastern, if you prefer a morning one. So you can register there. And then finally, we have our, oh, Rich likes the Discord server. You know, I like it too, and I'm very new to Discord, so I'm glad that you like that. Thank you for the feedback. The last one we have is the partner survey. You have until February 29th to complete that. If you could do that, that would be amazing. It will help us make SaaS alerts better for you guys. That's all I have.
Awesome, Michelle. All right, so let me stop my sharing for a minute. And Leron, are you with us and Amanda for the Fortify and Shadow IT report?
I'm here.
All right, sir. Floor is yours.
All right. Let me know if you guys can see my screen.
Black so far.
Still black?
Yes.
Upper right-hand corner only.
Okay. Amanda, do you mind going first while I get this screen share sorted out?
Sure, no problem. All right. So I have the foreign applications report to show you guys today. So this is currently not available in production. It's in the very last stages of some testing, so it should make it there shortly, probably early next week. So under operational reports, there's now foreign application details, Shadow IT. And when you click on this, because I already ran it in preparation of today, you know, it's storing my organization and my start date for me. So you would pick your organization, pick your date range that you want to run the report for, and press the run report button, and you will get your list. Right now in this environment, I only have Microsoft to show you, but this is pulling across multiple products. So Slack, Google, whoever. Google doesn't provide us a ton of information on the third party, so you'll see varying information depending upon which product it is that we're looking at. But you'll get the organization, the product name, the date and time, what that other app was that was accessing, the IP, and then you'll get a description as well. So that will be out shortly, like I said, early next week, most likely. And then real quickly, the other topic that I had was we are making some modifications to the default severity of the alerts. And so under settings, under customize alert severity, currently this is what the screen looks like. We have added a new toggle. This is only in our dev environment right now, so it's coming shortly, probably more like later next week when it comes out. So currently what you have is what we've now labeled onboarding mode. And so that will change the default severity column here for you. And when you toggle over to the quiet mode, you can see that those first few changed from mediums to low for me. But you can see that anything that was a custom severity was not modified. So anything that you have customized to be a specific severity will not be touched. The quiet mode, what it does is instead of having X amount of critical, we've brought it down to 4 or 5. I forget how many mediums we had, but now there's probably only like 8 mediums and everything else is a low. So it's intended to reduce, you know, some of the noise that the alerts can create once you have the system set up and configured the way you want. At any point, you can come back and you can toggle between the two. So, you know, if you're onboarding somebody and you want to want to make sure you step through all the events appropriately, you can leave it in onboarding mode. Those are my 2 items. If anybody has any questions, let me know. Otherwise, Liran, you can take over.
DJ said a question.
Yeah.
DJ said, can we set alert priority by client at any point? We have some partners using PAN generating loads of elevation alerts, excuse me.
Right. So right now, all that'll do will change it for your entire SaaS instance. It will not be by partner or organization, as we call it. But we still continue to evaluate that option.
Yeah, DJ, I'll jump in on that as a follow-up. This is something that we've had a number of partners ask for over really more than the past year. What we recommend to partners, and I think what your team does, since I'm a little familiar with you guys, is set everything to low and use respond rules to manage noise control, which is kind of the optimal use. Full disclosure to this group, the issue with that specific request of setting alert severity by customer organization is it actually requires a fundamental refactoring of the primary application. It's a gigantic task. So we haven't tackled it yet, and we've seen most of our partners adopt the solution of using respond to hyper customize their rules down to only the things they want to hear about.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
All right, Liran, you ready to go?
Liran, you're on mute.
I just
You're
let
on
him-
mute, Liran.
Hey, sorry about that. I had to do a quick reboot. I am back. All right. Can you guys see my screen now?
We can.
All right. So this is Fortify templates, very much in active development. This just hit our development environment a few days ago. So very much a work in progress. You'll see right away, templates should be plural here. These are the sorts of things that we are working through right now. So I'm going to go through and show you guys what this looks like, right? So I click on template right at the top here in the Fortify menu. So same exact Fortify menu with the exception that now we'll have templates here. First thing you'll notice is we have your templates and then we have community templates. Community templates will be coming soon. We wanted to get this out to you guys as quickly as possible, collect some data, and then release some community templates, which by the way, will also allow you to create templates and then submit them to us for publishing to the rest of the community. So without further ado, let's go in and create a template. So I'll come in here and I will give it a template title. And then I will give it a description. We've also added the ability to add tags so that you can organize your templates. You can manage your tags over here. And then below, you'll see that we have a table with all the unselected recommended actions. And then we have the selected recommended actions that are going to make up your template. So for the sake of this example, I will do a search for CIS, do select all, and I will click add to selected. Another change that I want to make here, by the way, is to make this button significantly louder and more visually present than it is right now. I think it's a bit hard to see. So we click add selected. So we've taken all of these. We have our template, selected recommended actions here. I'm going to go ahead and save the template. Template saved successfully. So let's go back to the templates. And I called my template. So I can do a search. You'll see that this is our dev environment, right? So very active in terms of what's happening, but you'll see that I'm the author. This is the tag that I've applied here. And now I can apply the organizations that are applied to this template. So there's 2 ways I can do that. I can do it in the context or view of the template. So I can select that button over there. All right, so we have unselected organizations here. I can select all. I can select one, add to selected, press confirm. And one of the changes that we're working on making now is that when you press confirm, it will go ahead and execute the template and the recommended actions that you've selected. The other way that you can add a template to an organization is when you look inside the dashboard here, where we list all of your potential organizations. We can see that we have this organization and it has 0 templates. I can click modify templates. Here, I'm going to get a list of all of the available templates that I have. So if I select a template that I just created, click add selected, and then confirm, I will then go ahead and add this template to this organization. So this is a very nice way to create logical groupings of a whole bunch of recommended actions, right? If you have different pricing plans for, you know, a bronze, silver, gold type of situation with the recommended actions that you can provide, or maybe different licensing levels, things like that. So this is our initial cut at the template functionality. We do have plans to make additional changes to this. Our next release we'll be doing significant work on the security frameworks in conjunction with the community templates. So in the community templates, what you're going to see is a CIS community template, although you can fairly quickly create one in the same way that I've gone ahead and created it. So I know we have a packed agenda. I went through this pretty quickly, but do we have any questions about templates?
There's a couple, Liron. The first is, can you create templates based upon licensing restrictions?
So not exactly the way that it is today, but that is very much on the roadmap and something that we plan to do. So in other words, when you go to create the template here, we'll give you the ability, we have this minimum license. We'll give you the ability to filter on this license so you can tweak this exactly the way you need to.
Yeah. So to Andy, who asked that question, what you would do, I think, with V1 of templates is your team would need to be informed about what policies you want to apply to a business basic or a P1 or an E3 and build your template manually and name it that. And I think for V1.1 or V1.2 of templates, we'll be looking to quick filter based upon licensing capabilities. Is that an accurate statement, Liron?
Yes.
Okay. Second one, Andy, I don't know what you mean by may we add remove by tags.
In other words, he was saying that we could select by entering in part of the title of this thing and search for it. What if I just want to search by tag and have a collection based on that? I didn't see that demonstrated. So if I wanted test 1.0 and all the test 1.0s to come up as a selection and then add selected, that was what I was going at.
Chip, just in interest of time with Ted, could we jump into that and maybe answer these offline?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Thanks.
So we'll dig into those questions, guys, offline and take them to the next piece.
Awesome. All right. So we've got a special guest with us. Ted, thanks for your patience and thanks for joining us. I had the pleasure of having Steve, your CEO, on the cyber call. You guys, are some of the first to market with Copilot, and Chip posed some questions this week. And Chip, maybe can you set the stage of where your head was before we, collectively get into this fireside chat with Ted? Let him, intro himself and who Intiva is. But what's roaming around in your mind here, and not just, I guess, from the go-to-market, but I'm assuming security, potentially what could SaaS alerts do, et cetera. But let me leave it.
So the quick journey here for me is that our engineering team started using Copilot on the development side, early in 2023 when that became available. And that's been a very useful productivity enhancer for us as an engineering team. And as many of you may know, or maybe some don't know, Microsoft has released a Copilot module, let's call it, or licensing option for Office 365 applications. I was asked about this by a partner prospect several weeks ago and thought, I need to take a look at this. So I did. Licensed co-piloted our own tenant, began using it. And that raised my eyebrows on two things in particular. Number one, I was very curious to think about who might be really extensively using Copilot with their customers. And Antiva came back right away and, reaching out to Ted, he volunteered to come on and talk to us about that experience. I'll leave the questions that I was asking Andrew maybe until the end and let Ted go through his use case and see if the rest of the group sort of evolves some of those same questions. How about that?
Yeah, that's perfect. And so Ted, thanks for joining. And Chip, I've kind of put them in a fireside chat type thing here, but collectively to the group, please chime in. Like this isn't, I want this to be interactive. But Ted, thanks for joining us. Maybe if you could share a little about yourself and Antiva, and then we'll get right on into it here.
Yeah, perfect. No, thanks for having me here. So also, Ted Brown, director of product here at Antiva, but also a SaaS Alerts partner. So I've been with the SaaS Alerts journey, so it's happy to be part of this and seeing this grow, especially getting into different areas where we can actually monitor and take action on. And it could be something coming up within the Microsoft Copilot application itself. So I've been in the industry for over 20 years, right from the get-go, supporting MSP, supporting small, medium-sized businesses, and really focused on how to get to them the emerging technologies that are out there, and then making sure that they drive success with that solution set is. And of course, that's going to be right now on the forefront of everyone's mind is Microsoft Copilot. I mean, that's clients keep coming to us today. How can we use it? What can we get out the door with it? And we got early into the market, of course, as soon as we could in January, because we wish it was launched a lot earlier. But for us, what our framework was, as long as you're comfortable with the security aspect of it and putting it forward, we like to people kind of jump into it on test groups, see what works for them as an organization, and then kind of elaborate from there. So internally, we actually took it on for us. We put out a couple of different people in departments, grabbing licensing sets of Microsoft 365 Copilot and utilizing it on a daily basis. And then meeting together as a group collectively and going, how's it working? How are you utilizing it in Outlook? How are you utilizing it in Word? What successes are you having? Which ones are you failing on? Hey, I'm not experiencing great success in Excel. What am I doing wrong? Hey, it's because you need to have it uploaded to OneDrive, and then you can go down this direction. So some kind of tips and tricks along the way. And for me personally, I have to say, I've had it for over about a month now. And the early first couple of weeks, success wasn't there. I think I was playing with it more than actually was providing more productivity and creativity to me. But now fast forward to those last couple of weeks, I'm seeing a lot more success on productivity level as it learns my style and how I write, especially on the Outlook side and Word. And again, it's kind of do some stuff in Excel a little bit there that I kind of like, but for the most part, Teams is phenomenal with Copilot, summarizing all your meetings and being able to take action, create notes from that, and then be able to put that into a note for the entire team to take action on if necessary. If they don't have Microsoft Copilot licensing, to kind of allow them to see the benefits of it as well. But for me, Teams, Outlook, and Word have been very valuable for me internally, and it'd be hard to kind of rip it away from me at this point.
Ted, just I posed a question to everybody just to get a sense in chat. Are you experimenting with it right now? Some are starting to chime in, but I was just trying to get a sense of our group. Just maybe high level to level set, yes, it's an LLM. Yes, it's integrated in Microsoft. What, maybe if you were to give a Reader's Digest or a quick, elevator pitch,
yeah.
What is it? And what is it? And what should success look like, maybe for an MSP? The way you just said, hey, it didn't do much for me initially. What should they be expecting?
For me, I would kind of it's not going to displace anybody. I think when people think about AI, hey, how can I get more efficiencies across my workforce and maybe kind of get more done with less? I like to think about Microsoft Copilot for 365 because that's also another thing. And there's Microsoft Copilot, which was Bing Chat Enterprise. Now you have Microsoft Copilot for 365, which integrates into the 365 applications to two different sets of products. I like to think about the 365 one as more of your personal assistant, help you write, edit, research, create, and do this all with the powers of artificial intelligence on the back end. But the key part is with your own data. It can search into your Teams, it can search into your SharePoint, it can go through all of your email. So I think there's really a lot of productivity value because of that, because you can instantly get those answers without having to type it into a chat kind of function. So I think that's a key part there, but also it's utilizing the tool sets you use, most of us use, most of our clients use on a daily basis. It's going to integrate to your Word, your Excel, your OneNote, your PowerPoint. So there's a lot of value in that aspect. So I really think of it as kind of a tool that can unleash your creativity, unlock the productivity of your employees, and potentially enhance your skill levels across your organization. I think it's going to do a little bit of level setting, and it's going to take your B, C players and kind of elevate them to the B+ players because they have access to this new tool set. It's going to take your A players and enhance them even further. And I think the one thing not to miss in this is looking at it from internal, not how much productivity, how much more creative you are, but also the satisfaction of your employees. Your employees, I think, will appreciate being able to have this level of tool sets enabled for them to make their daily tasks easier and provide them a better kind of work experience on their daily lives. So at some point, I could see this becoming a differentiator between hiring somebody, where you want to go for employment. What kind of tool sets you're utilizing? Do I get to play with the latest, greatest tool sets out there? So I think there's a little bit of employment satisfaction in there as well.
Well, you mentioned early on, obviously, and this is where I kind of ask you, maybe Chip, too, as a SaaS alerts user, someone compromises an M365 account, starting to think spear phishing, can they start asking, this AI tool, hey, well, what information do I know about Ted? I mean, and if so, Ted, how are you guys thinking about the security beyond DLP, just like any type of behavioral things that might, spark your SIM and SOC to kind of think about? Does that make sense?
Yeah, and it's definitely a risk and a concern. A lot of those application and file sets, regardless if they have Microsoft Copilot today, they have access to get that beforehand. So it will go through and make it easier to find things, but the level of access was already given to that employee. So the bad actor potentially could have infiltrated and got access to that at that point in time. So I do think having solutions like SaaS alerts enables you to feel more confident about who is accessing the system to actually to utilize Microsoft Copilot, but that risk is definitely there.
Yeah.
So Andrew, that you bring up a good point. One of the other elements of my journey and wanting to put this on the table as a topic is very recently we've begun seeing Copilot interaction in the raw data that we're pulling down from Microsoft logs. And it doesn't provide a lot of detail. I think Microsoft is behind in terms of what's available from their APIs, the Graph API and audit logging, on what exactly is going on. So for instance, if Ted asks for specific advice on a formula in Excel, or asks to search for a document based upon some keywords, we're not getting that level of detail back. All we know is that there was a Copilot interaction between the user and Copilot. That's it. So, we're going to follow this closely as it evolves. Definitely are interested in what the community thinks about how we should be addressing that from a monitoring and alerting perspective. Ted, I wanted to ask you, you made a comment early on that you built some sort of internal user groups, essentially, peer groups, to share experiences across that. It's interesting to hear you say that, because my journey with Copilot so far has been really a solo one, and I haven't picked up the what I see as the value that you have already. And I'm wondering if it's because of that lack of peer interaction. How would you approach MSPs, or how would you translate that into the rest of this group, sort of prophesizing and helping their customers with the approach to adopting Copilot? And then I want to chat about your thoughts on the licensing costs.
Absolutely. And just real quick on potentially logging aspects, I don't know what's there, but one thing that would be important to me is looking at the authentication factor for because right now there's the Microsoft Copilot, which was Bing Chat Enterprise. You have the ability to be protected. So if you're in Microsoft Edge or something like that, you'll see protected when you're actually making the calls out to the large language models. they're only protected for that for certain license types. I know they opened up to a whole majority of licenses today, but if someone has like a Microsoft Exchange Plan 1, they're not authorized for the protected level of when making those large language model calls. And for me, I would love to know if there is a check for intra call back into our environment and a deny statement going out that they didn't actually pass that for the licensing test. If that came through, then I can monitor on that, because that person could be putting PII into the prompts and that not being protected by Microsoft. So that would be a risk to me that I would love to see monitored.
Yeah, Chip, before we go into licensing, that was awesome, Ted. Like when I had Steve on the cyber call, he mentioned you guys you built a use case, or built a system to enhance customer service, I thought as well. How's it, and the reason I want to bring that up is so the MSPs can hear how you're using it with your ticketing, why you did that, what kind of success or challenges have you seen post releasing that?
Yeah, and Chip, I'll get to your question as well about user groups. So going back to Microsoft Copilot 365 and utilizing like OpenAI, large language models, I think there's you have to kind of delineate the two a little bit. So you have Microsoft Copilot 365, what I really think is going to be more of your personal assistant. It won't help in the enhancement of streamlining processes such as ticketing. So we've actually built our own integration that calls out to OpenAI through doing like ticket triage. So as companies, people email us, we can actually ingest the ticket, grab some information, throw information out to large language models about what it is, what could it be, any additional questions we want to potentially ask about that, what is actually missing, some good next steps, and bring that straight into our ticketing system, potentially call back out to the client to get more information if necessary, all before this ticket reaches in tech to actually take action on it. So now we got clean information, potentially more valid. You know, my client calls up, I'm having an issue on Word. Okay, what issue are you having on Word? You know, so hopefully this system will actually pull more information out of it. And on the key part of it as well is kind of grabbing user sentiment all along the way. How is our text interacting with the client? How is the client interacting with the tech? Are they happy on the first call, but maybe on that resolution, they would express some dissatisfaction? What action can we take out of that as well? So we can have a whole bunch of different work processes, all from being able to have API integration into the large language models. Again, this is all outside of Microsoft 365 Copilot, so it's like a development aspect. But then you can kind of start taking actions from those coming through and help streamline the process. I mean, we're all getting tons of tickets every day, and the more time we save up front on getting the correct information to the correct tech will help streamline our process and make us more profitable at the end of the day.
Chip, sorry about jumping on your last question.
That's fine.
Yeah. And as far as for me, for user adoption, I've always been a community type person of like, the more you see somebody else do something, you go, oh, wow, he's having fun with this. You know, what else can I get out of it? Or he's seeing success. What am I missing? And for me, I think having a group go through it together and meeting on a weekly basis has helped out adoption. For me, I knew early on the first couple of days, I really thought, hey, this is cool, but am I getting value at it? Is it worth, like you mentioned, the $30 a license set for each user? For me right now, 100%, I'd probably pay more for that $30 for that license for me, because I am gaining a lot of extra value. You only have to save, only a handful of hours over a course of a month to make up for that $30. And I think if you start kind of sprinkling this across different departments and seeing how they utilize a tool of this and showing how you can do correct prompt engineering, it's a skill set. It's a learning tool of actually kind of a muscle you kind of got to build to understand. I need to put it in a phrase in this way to get something out. And it is sometimes a hit or miss type of thing. I don't like it. Let me put something else in there. But the more you do it, it will strengthen your prompt engineering skills, and then able to extract the information out the first time, the second time, and boom, you have a great email, or I got all the information of how to get, do demarc or something, demarcation or something along those lines without having to do all the research myself. So there's a lot of value that can bring, and then you're saving 20 minutes of research time. You did in the amount of 2 minutes because you did the correct prompt engineering.
Yeah.
So is that impacting the go-to-market side of this, Ted? Are you guys able to make a case to customers that it's worth the $30?
Yeah, we have yet to see a client go, I want all 25, or I want all 100 people, 150 people to have licenses, say. And I think Microsoft missed the boat a little bit on how they actually did the announcement of this. If they probably announced it in the November timeframe, people would actually potentially budget for it for the beginning of the year and going out. But here you have to do a $30 license, paid all up front, all annual commit. So if you do it for 10 people, it's a decent amount of money going out the door for January. But for us is try it, get a test group together. One person usually is not going to make a case for it. Get a group of people together. And I do like having people work together that is in like a department. Have multiple people doing the similar type of things. Try that out, and then go to the next department, or do it across an organization segment, or your operational team that may be seeing over different verticals or different departments in the organization. So you can have the same type of conversations together at the same time period and see what works or not for you as an organization.
Ted, just for the folks on the call, what departments are there any? Does it depend on the customer, but are you seeing any specific departments that, the definitely more adopters in this type of department versus that type of department?
I feel the marketing teams always just want to grab this. I can get this and make a presentation. I can put the Twitter feeds out there really quickly. So I think marketing teams want to gravitate this, but I really don't think there's many departments out there that could not gain help utilizing this tool as being a personal assistant along the way, writing better emails, getting better responses, helping fulfill RFPs easier, being able to go down that path. So I think there's sales team is going to be really kind of help them out in those types of areas. Accounting team would do everything on Excel. So I really think majority of department legal, being able to actually take a look at legal documents in a faster way, summarize this 40-page legal document, going and give me the key bullet points of what I should actually go back to them on terms for. So you can do all these certain things. So I really don't think there's many different departments out there that couldn't be helped by this tool. But again, I do like the idea of starting small and then broadening it out and training your users for it. There are trainings out there for how to use Microsoft 365 for Copilot. And I do think it's important just kind of throwing a license over to them. They probably won't get too far as success, but showing them how to enable it, showing them success, and then potentially doing some type of learning on prompt engineering, I think will have them see success early on and allow them to add more licenses the next month and the month after, which will make us all more successful.
Yeah, Ted, just a side comment. I've never ever experienced Microsoft being so forward in their support, and I mean outreach support for any product. So in the 2 weeks since I signed up for Copilot, I've had not less than 6 emails asking me how my journey's going, and 2 unsolicited calls from Microsoft support to see if I need any help to get my Copilot journey really moving. Like it's really kind of remarkable how much energy they're putting behind it to try and get this thing to fly.
They're all in. I just wish they pushed more up front before it got released to all of our clients. If we had the ability as MSP group to actually have access to test it, try it out, I think we'll be a lot farther along in this process. So that was kind of a disappointment on my side, like a CSP adoption trial period for 3 months or something like this, or potentially free licenses as well. I think that would go far ways for some UIRs. But I really think the only way for us to kind of move forward with this is bring it internally, try it out, use it, and just basically try to make it part of your daily activity.
Yeah, Chip, it's funny you mentioned all the love you've been getting. I should have saved it and I'll go find it, but there's a Forbes article on the quarterly revenue that Microsoft released in their on their 10K and what their projections are. Ted, it's staggering, isn't it? Like, I mean, the accretive revenue this is going to give Microsoft, and that's part of the reason, which A, love your thoughts, but B, maybe we could touch on the licensing model. This was just a prompt. This may not be correct, this licensing that I put in here. It was more of a discussion point of where we're at right now, that you could bring us up to speed. But don't you think that's a big piece of it is Microsoft sees, hey, this is just an accretive thing. You already got licensing out there. If I can just move the needle another percent, a few percent every month. I mean, it's absolutely staggering because of the number of licenses they have in M365.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's eye-opening. And I think, was it 2 years ago they did the migration to NCE. I'm sure you guys all had a fun experience with that, with the price increase as well. And then you throw on here a $30 add-on, which is larger than all but 2 on that list, right? So at the end of the day, the price per user for these licenses is only going to increase. So again, for me, it comes down to the value add. Where's the value to you? Are you getting the most out of that Copilot license? And I really think you're going to start having here at the end of 2024 is people are going to look at their bank statement almost like it is back, personally wise, going, why am I having all these streaming services? Do I need all these streaming services? And I think it's going to happen with the AI tool sets for different products. You're going to probably collect a whole bunch of them to try to figure out what works with you. So I really think it's best to take an analysis of what your workflow is and choosing the right tools instead of just throwing it out a whole bunch of them, because sooner or later you're going to have a $120, $140 license per user out there when maybe you shouldn't have gone down that path and had a small test case and then broaden from there.
So I
Yeah.
know, Chip, you want to,
Go ahead, Andrew.
I was just saying, I know we want to get into verticals and use cases and things of that nature. Can I just ask Ted to chat? Eric Monroe brought up a point about what about settings and guardrails, for users, and I have a slide in here, I guess, which is, Copilot security, Ted, which is obviously security is why we're here. Could you maybe talk about just some guardrails and how, you might tell people to, hey, if you're new at this, where you'd want to start, and some security thoughts, if you would.
For somebody early on in this journey, I would actually start with them utilizing Microsoft Copilot and not Microsoft Copilot 365. Let them get used to that, because if that's the case, the Microsoft Copilot is just the web browser version of it. You have no data leakage that can occur within your data set. It doesn't connect to 365, SharePoint, Teams, or things, but you still get a whole bunch of bang for your buck because it's relatively free, because it's included in all the licensing set, except for today, I think Microsoft Exchange Online Plan 1. So if you have Business Basic, Premium, Standard, and 365 E3, E5s, clients can go there, be protected behind the broad privacy setting of Microsoft, and then take action there utilizing large language models. But this graph, actually, I find this chart right here, I think is very powerful. And Microsoft has a couple of them as well that is more of in a moving format, so you can explain to your users how it flows from user prompt to then going from grounding of actually grabbing the information you're asking about that's within your tenancy, going to your graph for Microsoft Tenant that's actually then taking a look at the security aspects of what you're able to see. And I did a couple of tests with this of basically trying to find documents within our tenancies. I had a person set up a team share that I didn't have access to. He put a whole bunch of documentation of how to do something, a training doc. And within Copilot, I went to do some searching, trying to find it. I couldn't find it. And I said, hey, please add me right to that group. He added me to that group, and instantly when I did that same search, how you do an action for setting up a My Telephone, that instantly came up, and I was able to grab that information and find it through the tenancy because I had now access to that file. So it's pretty nice to see it in action. But as it goes through here, it does the grounding, then flows back out to the large language model, which is on the right side of this graph. It then doesn't do anything as far as saving your prompt. It won't do any allowing the large language model to learn off your information. Doesn't do anything like that. And then it pops it back through into the tenancy, back down to the Microsoft Graph to see if there's any DLP settings that might be there, as far as if you have settings for needing to set labels on anything to set up any type of compliance or certifications going that. And then finally, it makes it back to the user, all of a matter of seconds. So it's actually pretty nice to watch this in motion. And if you see, I think on there, it's kind of small for me, you see locks along the way. Everything is encrypted in transit and in rest as it flows through this entire process. So they've done a good job of making sure it's secure. But they also kind of answer your question, Andrew, is if a person has access to that file within the tenancy and it's shared to them, they will be able to find it. So I know that's one thing. If you some reason on a people share out there, if it's shared out to everybody and has salary information, a end user can find that salary information. So it does come down to understanding your data, doing some potentially data hygiene, also making sure what the information you have out there is correct. If I do a how-to do set up GDAP for a Microsoft 365 account, and I had old training information out there, 365 or Copilot for 365 won't know what's really new or old. They'll bring up a presentation and go, here's the two different options. So it's still up to the person to take action on the correct one. So I think it comes down to making sure you have good data hygiene, understanding your data governance, and then making sure that you understand how things flow through your tenancy throughout the day. And if you can implement labeling through Purview, you'll be even farther along the lines.
Chip, I know we're down to about a minute here. What did you have for Ted?
First, Ted, thank you so much for joining us today and taking everyone through it. I think this is a really important topic. There's been a few times in the history of my career in technology when I think there's a real inflection point to call out, and I think this is one of them. I would really encourage all of our partners to begin experimenting with Copilot. Get as quickly as you can to Office 365 Copilot, because I see it evolving as a mechanism for you guys to build a new practice area, to increase your licensing revenue through your customers. I think Microsoft has finally done something right with licensing here. It is expensive at $30 a user. Ted makes the exactly accurate case that it's easy for your A-level knowledge workers to provide an ROI on that because it makes them that much more productive. But it's going to eventually spread everywhere. And just like, in the early 2000s, I think everyone would say that, look, if you can't use a computer, you're not going to have a job. By the end of the decade, I think by the end of the decade we're in now, if you don't have a facility for AI tools, and I would expect that Google's going to do the same thing with Gemini and into Google Workspace. If you don't have a facility with these tools, you're not going to be a well-paid knowledge worker. So I would really recommend that, everyone on this call, most of whom said they haven't started playing with this yet, it's definitely time to get on board.
Yeah, really good way to sum it up. Ted, gosh, can we have you back? Because I know there's a lot more.
Happy to be back. Yeah, if you guys want next week, I'll be on this community calls as a SaaS partner as well. So any questions, and I definitely open up to anyone else that has any questions to me directly. Happy to answer it. We are a community along the way, each with the same challenges and problems. So happy to have discussions offline as well.
Fantastic. All right. Well, everybody have an awesome week. We look forward to seeing you next Thursday. And thanks as always for joining. Again, Ted, thanks for joining. Thanks everybody for coming on today. Take care.
Thanks all.
See y'all.
Yes.